Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's go ahead and begin episode 15 of our Firebase 3 real-time chat application tutorial. Now today's lesson is going to be pretty fun. It's about managing the keyboard, and I'm going to show you two ways to actually do this. Now, the first way is the kind of Apple recommended strategy, and the second way is to actually use an input accessory view. And the second way is kind of less documented, and I'm going to show you exactly what it does and how we can actually introduce interactivity with the keyboard dismissal. So let me just show you what that looks like inside of our app right here. I'm logged in as Jon Snow. I'm going to click into Tyrion Lannister's chat log controller message history guy here, and we can actually just start typing in some messages at the bottom. If we hide the keyboard with Command K, and perhaps let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, and we will hit the send, and we get the message down there. So if I drag in my phone right here, let me just wake up my phone and bring back the application there, I can start seeing messages inside the left panel as well. So left panel will show this chat message, see message, and enter. So we see this message on the left. Now, if I bring the keyboard up in the simulator here, you'll notice that the bottom area is cut off. So what we want to build instead is the keyboard for the left panel with my iPhone there. And if I drag up and down, you'll see that the scroll bar works and the content of the controller shows everything. But here is the kind of bonus to today's video. I'm going to drag the keyboard actually down with my finger, and this is the behavior that iMessage has with the keyboard. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this with your phone. So let me just try to show you with my phone here. I'm just going to drag the keyboard down, and you'll see that it goes with my finger, and you can actually dismiss it by fully dragging the keyboard away. So let's go ahead and begin this implementation by moving some of these guys into the corner here. And finally, let's run the application and see what we get. So, okay, everything looks fine on my side. So why don't we begin with the actual coding of figuring out how the keyboard pops up. So let's go to chat log controller, and inside of view did load here, I'm going to call another method called setup keyboard observers. And inside of here, I'm going to create this, this function like that, and to figure out how tall the keyboard is. So the strategy to moving up this bottom input area is to pop it above this keyboard here. And I'm going to figure out the size of this keyboard by listening to a notification called NS notification center default center add observer, and this will be observer of self. Selector will be pound selector handle keyboard. The keyboard will show. That's a pretty good name for it. And this name is the actual type of notification that we need, called keyboard will show notification, and object is nil. So how does this work? Every time I, function, every time I show the keyboard like this method will be called right here. And it will be called with a parameter of NS notification type, just like this. And what is this notification? Well, let me just show you by printing out notification.userinfo. So let's see what that gives us inside of our console down here. So here we go. Run the app, go to Tyrion Lannister, and bringing up the keyboard, you see a blob of very overwhelming information down there. Let me just tell you how to get the height of the keyboard from this user info object. By typing in let keyboard frame equals notification user info. This is a dictionary, so let's access keyboard, frame with this end user info key, and type in CG rect value. So a lot of stuff to type. And we need to fix perhaps, this with a question mark like that. And now if we print out keyboard frame instead, you actually see how tall the keyboard is, and you can actually access the height on this guy. So let's run, get to Tyrion Lannister, show the keyboard, and we get this value here. So that's the entire frame. And we can actually access the height like this, like the height. That's how we get the height. So now that we have the height of the entire keyboard, we just have to move this bottom area up whenever the keyboard shows. So in here, we'll say, move the input area up somehow. So how do we do this? Well, inside of setup input components, we set up this container view, which has the send button down there in the bottom right corner. It has the input text field on the left side and this separator view on the very top. So all of this code will stay the same with the exception of this bottom anchor right here. So let's get some more space. And I am going to do this. I'm going to capture this entire anchor. So this entire anchor here under this reference called container view bottom anchor. Hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory as to what it'll do. And I'll copy and paste and set that equal to this entire container anchor. And then we can just copy that, paste that in there, put an optional, and run this code to see exactly the same thing as we saw before. So nothing has changed, only a reference is being captured so that we can access it a little later on. So this still does the exact same thing. And inside of keyboard will show, we can actually modify the, let's see, container bottom anchor dot constant equals that. And if we set it to negative keyboard, let's see, keyboard frame, unwrap it like so, we can actually just modify the entire container view's bottom by pushing it up by the keyboard's height. So let's bring that up and bring the keyboard, and here it goes, just pops up like that. So that's how we do this entire magic of bringing the input area above the keyboard. Now, instead of, let's see, to actually dismiss the keyboard, for example, if I hit Command K and that dismisses the keyboard like that, and to hide or to bring back this input area, bring it back down, all you have to do is listen to this other method. So I'm just going to copy all of this here, and we listen to this other notification called keyboard hide or will hide notification. And in here, we'll create this method called keyboard will hide. Let me just do that perhaps on the bottom function, that with notification and ns notification. So very similar to the previous method that we created up here. And here we can simply say container view bottom anchor constant equals 0. So this will bring the bottom anchor for the container view all the way back down to the bottom of the view. So doing that, doing this brings the input area up and down. Now the bit of implementation that we're missing here is to actually animate this as the keyboard is sliding up. So to animate it, all we have to do is to go to one of these methods, perhaps keyboard will show, and call it UI view animate with duration. So what is this duration value here? Well, we can actually fetch it from this user info object with let perhaps keyboard duration equals notification dot user info keyboard duration, like this, animation duration. And for this, we need a value of double value from this object here. So that's how that works. And in here, we'll say perhaps keyboard duration bang to unwrap it. Animations will be self.view.layout if needed. And this, I believe, needs a optional question mark and run. So what is this guy actually doing? Well, every time you want to animate constraints inside of iOS, all you have to do is call self.view.layout if needed after you modify the constraint. And there we go. Bring the keyboard up, bring the keyboard down, and up and down. So if we bring it down, we actually have to include the duration as well. So why don't we just, let's see, copy and paste all of this code perhaps inside of keyboard will hide here. Just bring this guy down, and this will be a value of 0, and we should be good to go. Let me just remove that. And let's run Tyrion Lannister, bring our keyboard up and down. So I'm just hitting Command K to bring it up and down. And that's how that kind of works. So that's pretty interesting. And I want to show you a potential, it's not a potential bug, but this memory leak that will occur if you don't remove these observers inside of setup keyboard observer. So inside of these view controllers inside of iOS, you can call a method called view did disappear, super view did disappear with this animated. And you actually have to call ns notification center, default center, remove observer of self. So I'm going to show you what happens if you don't call this guy, right? So I'm going to run this code again. And if you don't remove yourself as an observer, the memory leak kind of occurs like this. So if I go in here and I bring up the keyboard, and if I hide the keyboard, we'll fire 103, line 103 once. So I'm going to hit Command K to hide the keyboard. And you see that this gets fired once. And if I bring it up again and I bring it back down, you see it just gets fired once, right? So here's the memory leak. If I bring this back and hit or instantiate a new controller for this chat log, and if I put this breakpoint back on keyboard will hide, you'll see that, let's see, that's kind of weird. So when I try to bring this keyboard up like that and I try to hide it, this keyboard will hide actually gets called twice. So once and twice. So if I do this again, so bring this guy in, bring this guy up perhaps, and if I put another breakpoint there and hide this keyboard again with Command K, this gets called a third time. So that's a problem. And the fix is to actually just use this remove observer. And we'll run the code again and I'll show you that the notification will only show up once, or the actual handling of the notification on keyboard will hide only shows up once. So let's bring the keyboard up, put a breakpoint here, and hide the keyboard like that. And you see one breakpoint, and that's good. If we, let's see, I think we have to remove that, bring this here, bring this. Okay, so let's bring this breakpoint back here, and I'm going to hide the keyboard with Command K. You'll notice that the breakpoint only gets called once. So that's the proper fix for that. So make sure to include the removal in your code. Otherwise, you'll have a ton of controllers in memory that will definitely make your application a lot slower. Anyhow, let's get to the more interesting part of today's exercise. And I'm going to bring my phone back into play here. And this has this chat log controller here. And what I want to show you guys how to implement is the interactivity of this keyboard. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that inside of a collection view controller by first going to view did load right here. And inside of collection view, you can actually implement this keyboard dismiss mode equals dot interactive. So let's do that and run the code. And you'll see that our controller actually, let me bring up the keyboard here. It actually follows the keyboard as it goes up and down. So this is interactivity for the keyboard dismissal. The problem is obviously the input area needs to follow along with the keyboard. So I'm not really sure how to monitor where the frame of the keyboard is. And if you guys know of the strategy to do that, please let me know in the comment, and I'll probably give you a cookie or something. Anyhow, the proper way of implementing the interactivity that I just showed you on my phone is to actually use something called an inputAccessoryView, and that view will just stay on top of the keyboard at all times. So let's see what that looks like by first removing the setup input components and setup keyboard observers. What this means is the input components on the bottom is no longer going to show in my controller. So that's what I want. And here's how the input accessory works. Let's just go inside of the controller and implement this input accessory view. And because this is a property on UIView controller, you override this by specifying a get like this. And inside this getter, you have to actually return a UIView type. I'm going to create this container view by UIView like so. A container view needs to actually have a frame in order to show up with CG rect X and 0, 0. And I'm going to make it as wide as the frames, view frames width with the height of 50. Finally, container view dot background color is color perhaps yellow. I think that will show up. And here is what we need to do. Perhaps this needs to be a light gray color. And return this container view like that. Now, if I run this, we don't actually see anything until you override can become responder. Let's see, let me see my application here. You don't see anything. Once you return true for the responder method, you'll actually see the input accessory view right on the bottom of the chat log. So down there. And this is my light gray input accessory view. So that's pretty nice. I guess I'll show you guys what I want to do with this. Inside of input accessory view, I'm going to add inside of this gray container view a text field with a name of TextField, surprisingly, right? So TextField placeholder equals enter some text like that. And then I'm going to add the container view, add subview text field. And text field actually needs a frame of CG rect, and we'll use this X00. And I'm going to show you what view frame width will give us. And then we'll say height of 50 as well. And now you're going to be able to see this text field inside of the container view. So let's look at the chat log and click into Tyrion Lannister. We get this right here. So the keyboard goes up, and if we slide the keyboard down, we actually get the interactivity that you kind of saw on my phone. Now it feels a little choppy, but just take my word for it. Inside of your phone is not choppy at all. It's pretty smooth. So that's what we get. And here is one of the, or is the major issue with this implementation here. I can't actually punch anything inside of this text field. So that's the huge problem here. And the fix, or I guess the problem is that text field, I'm not 100% sure on this, but the text field no longer has a reference, or we're no longer maintaining a reference to text field inside of this block, which means that the text field is no longer in operation. If you guys know of a better reason, please let me know as well. So the trick is to, instead of providing this container view inside of this getter, I am actually going to create a property on my controller so that we can hold a reference to this entire view. And I'm going to create this via let input container view, be of type UIView. And here we'll just cut all of this code. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to return this container view and execute this closure by using that. So this fix here, I actually need to include self to fix the view property like that. And so I've mentioned this before, you can't actually access self unless you provide lazy var right before the property. So that's that. Now inside of input accessory view, we'll just return input container view. And with this fix in place, the text field is now kind of in commission again. So we bring this up here, we can start typing things inside of the keyboard. And that's kind of the fix. So now the only remaining task for us is to bring back the previous implementation for the text field, the send button, and the separator view on top. So if we look for this set of input components, I'm going to show you how to do this a little quicker by copying. Let's see. So we have the send button here. the input text field here and the separated line there. So why don't we save ourselves a bit of work and copy all of this code. I just hit the copy key, and where is my input container view? Inside of here, I'm going to hit 2 enters, paste this entire thing, and let's see what we need to do. So everything looks fine actually. We're creating the send button here, container view, conveniently named the same thing, is adding the send button inside of it. We're setting the constraints on it. And all we need to do is fix input text field here with a self dot. So that's all we need. And I'm going to paste that in there. If I run this right now, I believe the background is currently not correct. It actually needs to be a white color, but that's just a minor detail before we get all of this working. So let's just do this right here. And I believe we have 2 text fields in there now. So why don't we first remove this text field like that, and we'll change this to white color like so. And hopefully, fingers crossed, everything magically will work. So running, Lannister, click there. And as we drag the keyboard down like this, we see that the collection view kind of goes down with it, and also our input area goes down with it. So I have to fix that as well. If we type in 123, hit send, you see this message shows up right there. So that's pretty cool stuff. Not a lot of documentation on Google on how to do this. So consider this a good bonus for you guys today. Now, a couple of issues here. The implementation is never complete without some issues, right? I want to fix this scroll area. So let's go to view did load, I believe, and scroll indicator insets. I can just completely comment that out. And the content inset of 58, if I just change that to 8, I believe that'll fix that entire scrolly issue. All right, so we're going to run the application, go in here and drag this all the way down. You see that it kind of fixes the issue right there. So that's quite good. We probably still have to fix this problem where this should really automatically scroll in the view, but we'll take a look at that maybe a little later. The issue I want to focus on now is what happens when I rotate this application. You see that if I hide the keyboard, everything inside of here is kind of stuck in the middle again. And in one of our previous videos, we were able to fix this issue by calling collection view. Let's see if I can see view will transition to size. We call it this collection view layout invalidates layout method. Every time we rotate the screen via view will transition to size. So if we fix this, or I guess if we want to fix this, the way to do it is to go to, let's see, Control-6 size for item at index path. We have to actually fix this return value of view frame width. And the reason is because now that we have this input accessory view, this input accessory view on the bottom, the collection view sizing, or the view's size, is no longer correct for some odd reason. And I'm just going to introduce, instead of this view frame width, I will say let width equals UI screen dot main screen bounds dot width, and I'm going to use this width value instead. Let's run our application and take a look at what that'll give us. So run, clicking into Tyrion Lannister, I'm going to rotate my phone, and we get our application that looks like that now, and that's pretty much what I want. Let's see if I bring the keyboard back up and rotate the screen and drag this back down, drag this down here. See, everything works quite nicely. I mean, aside from this jerky behavior, everything is performing quite well. So let's bring this back up to there, bring this to the corner. All right, that's going to conclude our video lesson today. Hope you guys enjoyed the 2 ways to implement keyboard management. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed today's lesson. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions at all, and also hit the subscribe button to kind of stay tuned for the rest of the videos inside of this Firebase series. All right, in the next episode, I want to show you guys how to further optimize your Firebase data structures. And along the way, I'll show you guys why this is going to save you money in the long run. And furthermore, if you want to download the project for today's video lesson, you can click on the download link above. Follow me on Twitter at Build That App. Finally, if you want to learn more about iOS development, click on the 3 playlist links on the bottom to get even better at iOS programming. That's about it, guys. Keep on coding, and I'll see you next time.